Theresa Capalla. Welcome to Where's Wilmington? Today's program we're going to be talking about Wilmington's Science and Tech Fair, and I have with me Chuck Kitchen, who is a retired engineer from Analog. Sitting next to him is Theresa Piazza, who is a 7th grade science teacher. And on the very end, last but not least, we have Mick Muick, who also is an engineer and works for Analog, correct?
That's right.
Fabulous, I got it right. What do you know? So let's start with you, Chuck. Tell me a little bit about how you became an engineer, and then we'll shift our focus and talk about how you got involved with the Science and Tech Fair.
Okay. When I was a kid, I was always interested in engineering, I think, in general. I was interested in building things and putting things together. And my grandfather was an MIT electronics engineer. So I still remember this. We had a Thanksgiving at our house one year, and I think I was about 10 years old. And my grandfather he hadn't shown up yet for dinner because he was down in his basement lab. And I went down in his lab, and he was making sparks and connecting things. And I just thought, this is the coolest thing in the world. Wow. So after that, I only wanted to do one thing in my life, and that was to be an engineer.
So science is in your DNA.
Exactly right.
Really. I mean, you can't escape it. And where did you go to school? Did you go to MIT also?
I didn't actually. I went to Wentworth Institute. I went to a 2-year school.
Excellent.
And I got my my associate's degree in electronics. Then I went 4 years in the military during Vietnam and in the Air Force. I had another year of schooling there. And then I went to University of Lowell for years and years and years at night school while working.
Wow.
So I kind of did it in steps, which is a little easier, but took a long time.
A lot of folks do that. That's how I did my schooling too. How did you go from being an engineer at Analog to actually volunteer teaching and being part of the Science and Tech Fair? How did that happen?
Well, I was very lucky because Analog Devices actually, they support the teaching. Ray Stata, who's the chairman of the board of Analog Devices, supports what they call the reseed program and teaching in general, science teaching in general in Massachusetts. So what actually happened was my supervisor at the time, this is about 10 years ago, this is my 10th year now, I'm finishing up. My supervisor came to me and said, how would you like to get some free physics courses and then teach in the local school system here in Wilmington 1 day a week? And I said, great, when can I start?
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
10 years you've been doing this.
That's correct.
Excellent. Wow. Now, Mick, you still are at Analog, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are still supporting the program, and do you get to teach once a week, or what's your capacity with that? How do you do it?
No, I just volunteer at the Tech Fair. Chuck hired me into that, I guess. I don't know how many years I've been doing it now.
A lot.
Maybe. Yeah, a bunch. So I really like it. I get a kick out of trying to inspire kids into the sciences and things like that.
Right.
Because there's not too much of that out there in the real world.
Right.
So
right.
Looking to
and
help
we're
out.
going to actually look at some footage with Chuck and Mick a little bit later, showing you you're really doing some exciting stuff with the kids. Really great. Now I want to make it clear you're not obviously from this country, right? You have an accent. So
That's
where
right.
are you originally from?
I'm originally from Australia.
Excellent.
And I got my education at Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, or as I say around here, Royal MIT.
Right?
Yeah,
Excellent.
So,
and so how long have you been in the United States?
22 years
Long
or
time.
so, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad you're here. So sitting next to you, we have Theresa. Theresa, can you tell me a little bit about how you as a teacher interact with both of these gentlemen and the Science and Tech Fair itself?
Oh, sure. Chuck, coordinates the technology fair each year. We generally hold it right before the kids' April vacation, and it's something to look forward to the springtime. And he brings in a whole bunch of engineers from Analog, and then we rotate our classes in. The 7th graders get to go in and experience for one class period each of the different stations that they have set up, and they have all sorts of activities. And there's 1 or 2 engineers operating each of the different stations that are going on, and they get to mill about and experience it, and it's very hands-on, and they love it. They look forward to it every year.
Now, as a teacher, how important do you really feel it is that the kids see someone who actually has worked in the field? Because we know America's gotten a lot of bad press about how our science and math, we know this, we've heard it for years now, how our science and math aren't up to par with some of the other countries, and I really would like to see that change. So do you feel this is an important way to do that, to encourage the kids so that they can actually see someone in the field doing the work?
I think it's so important. Number one, Analog is a local company. so these kids are familiar with this being a company in town. And then, the engineers that are brought in are, there's a variety of different, there's males and females, which is certainly good, especially for, the girls in the sciences.
Right.
But there's also lots of different races that, are represented. And, so for, kids of different races to be able to see, different opportunities that they have to be able to go into, it's so important.
What have been some of the favorite projects that you've seen in the Science and Tech Fair over the years that you've really liked?
Well, that would actually be a long list, actually. What we really do is, well, to answer your question specifically, one of my best friends, Larry DeVito, he runs the Spark Station, we call it, and it's very safe. It's low voltage and all this,
Right.
but he's actually even more crazy than I am, as he's a really excellent engineer, and he has a lot of fun with the kids. So he makes sparks, and he had a Jacob's ladder this year. He had his usual things that he set up, but he really has some outrageous demonstrations he usually puts on.
Excellent.
We've had a number of different things. Myself, I probably set up about, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I probably set up 6, 7 of the tables are my materials and kind of what I do. And in other words, the subjects that I teach in the middle school. Electricity, we have a magnetism table, electricity table, we have a shop table. I
So we
teach
should
shop.
make that clear. Are you an electrical engineer specifically?
Yes, electronics, actually.
Okay, electronics,
So I always make sure I sneak in as much electricity into the curriculum that I can. But also magnetism. Shop, too. Boys and girls love shop. They love to. What they really like to do, particularly grade 7, but also grades 4 and 5, I also teach them a little bit. The kids really like something where they can just get their hands on it. They want to pick up a drill and drill a hole or nail a nail. They like to use screwdrivers. They just want to physically do something.
Right. Well, it's creative. It's
Yes.
making, seeing the
Yes.
fruition of your work. And what about you, Mick? What have been some of the favorite projects that you've seen or worked on with the kids?
I work on the integrated circuits side of things, trying to explain away what that means, because a lot of the kids, like Chuck says, they're very hands-on. They can get their head around something that they can hold in their hand and play with and things like that. And the integrated circuits, the chips that are in computers and iPods and so forth, those things, they're not so easy to hold in your hand and see and, whatever. So I like to explain how things can go both on the tangible side and right down to the microscopic side to give them a full spread.
So are you a mechanical engineer then, or different?
Electronics engineer
You're an
as
electronics engineer also? Okay, wow. How important do you all feel that this all is for the future, really, of our country, what you're doing?
Well, I certainly do. I think that my goal really has always been just to basically convince kids that science is fun. I think if I do that, I've done a good job. But as far as careers, certainly, I think engineering and science in general offers a kid a decent opportunity in life, something that they might really have fun with.
Right.
An occupation that would be challenging and also fun, rather than something else that they might not enjoy so much.
Mm-hmm. And they might not even be aware that they're into science until they really get, sometimes book learning, I think, Theresa, can be a little bit stagnant, if you will. So actually getting in and getting your hands dirty probably helps them to see things that they maybe weren't even sure they were interested in. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. I try within my own classroom and my own teaching, I try to do sort of as little book work as possible. I try to, we had a couple of labs this week, try to make it as hands-on because that's where they're going to learn.
Right.
That's when they're going to remember it.
But you wouldn't be able to do that without the help of these folks and analog in the program, because really, how much science and engineering experience have you had, right?
Right.
Only with what you educate. Not to say that you're not as educated as these guys, but you're not building microchips or Jacob's ladders every day of the week, right?
Right, exactly. And certainly, my technology background is where these guys pick up, because, I do have a science background, but I don't have a technology background. So, for them to come in and help support that and just show a different side of it, show, a realistic, this is a real life application for these basic concepts we're learning at, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Right, get them at the early formation stage so that when they're moving towards college, they'll have a good direction to go in. And what about you, Mick, feeling how important this might be to the future of this nation and other nations as well?
I think it's critically important. The long-term success, I think, of a country as a whole is its ability to invent new things and create products that the rest of the world is interested in, and so that'll be the basis of a lot of economic success for the future.
Right.
And in particular, the sciences. More and more science is pervading our lives. Even the electronics that we do these days. It's not just radios and computers. It's implantable medical electronics and so forth. And electronics is a very huge part of the future science of the world.
Right, absolutely. Anything you'd like to see change with the program? Would you like more grant money, more time? What would you like? Anything you'd like to see change? I know, it's a broad question.
To be honest, money is it can't be made too lightly. I have a small budget that I'm very grateful that Analog gives me, and it allows me to buy materials I could never provide myself. But it's almost in teaching, you almost never have enough money. You can always use more money for things, particularly just something like electricity. There's a lot of usage. You just burn out a lot of batteries, you burn out light bulbs, you just use a lot of things, especially a hands-on kind of activity.
Right. What about you, Theresa? What would you like to see? More people getting involved in the program, more finance? What do you need?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, beyond obviously the money and supply piece of it, the more that kids can be exposed to programs like this. Outsiders coming in, my kids look forward to having Mr. Kitchen come in, when he's going to visit. So certainly other age levels, grade levels, to be able to have those same experiences with, a new individual that can spark their interest is definitely important.
I definitely think it comes down to two words: get involved, whether it be financially or giving your time or encouraging your child to get more involved with science. What do you think needs to be added to the program, if you could add anything?
You mean to the teaching curriculum?
Yes, or in general, for the program itself.
I think probably inspiration more so for the sciences. There's, I notice in my kid's school that some years he'll have a science teacher that is good. They can teach the mechanics like you would drill someone with math or so. Math can't be fun. Science, you can add a bit more fun to it and so forth. But we need to bring...
we're going to get letters now,
yeah,
Mick.
we need to bring
all those
a lot more...
mathematicians are going to say, what do you mean math isn't fun? No, go ahead.
It's not as fun as the electronic side of things where people interact with that, iPods and the like.
Yeah, science is more forgiving in teaching, that you can have fun in science class. I mean, it's just, I think, easier to have fun in.
It's just don't blow up the lab, right?
Exactly.
Right. We're going to take a look at actually the Science and Tech Fair. We're going to show a full 13 minutes of it. So we're going to get to see you guys in action. I don't know if you're in there, Theresa. I don't know if I saw you in there. But we're going to take a look at that, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with these generous folks from Analog and retired teacher Chuck Kitchen and Theresa Piazza, Mick Newick over there. So we'll be back with more of Where's Wilmington right after this. Enjoy the show.
Folks, why won't we go to the doctor? My uncle called, speech all slurred, complaining his arms numb. He called everyone. He even called my daughter Tierra, because she's got a year of nursing. Everyone thinks he needs to go to the doctor, including me. So he said, well, will you take me? I'm like, I'm on the road. He goes, I'll wait. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love have symptoms of stroke, don't wait. It may be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain loss.
My name is Chuck Kitchen, and I'm a volunteer science teacher. I've been teaching here at the middle school for 10 years now. This is David Pinet, who's the tech ed teacher, and Karen Cezeri, who's the grade 7 science teacher. So we're here for the tech fair this year. This is our 9th tech fair, I believe, here at the middle school. And it's our opportunity to bring hands-on activities to the kids of Wilmington. So we have approximately 35, 40 volunteers from Analog Devices who sponsors this event. These are engineers who come in for the day and spend time with the kids. So the engineers bring in their favorite projects, their favorite demos, and they have a fun, interactive time with the kids. And these are all hands-on kinds of activities, such as soldering, or electricity, or magnetism, and we have a bunch of different things like stroboscopes, and we also have a nice shock table, which is another one of these things that I've been doing in regular class with the kids too, where all the kids learn how to do basic shock, like drilling and hammering, things like that, which the kids enjoy a lot.
In addition to that, they also have normal electronic, like household equipment that would show actual real-life application and how the science material that the children are learning now actually will apply to what they need to do later on in life, or what they would like to do perhaps. This gives them a definite opportunity to see into their future if something interests them, so that they could pursue that, which would be actually, that application is really what we want the children to get to know. Our students don't always have that foresight, and I think it's necessary for them to want to maintain and retain the information that they learn in class so that they can apply it later on. And we've been working with Chuck for 10 years in our classrooms. He actually rotates through all the 7th grade classrooms, and every 3 weeks he visits my particular classroom with a new hands-on activity. It usually features different parts of physics. However, all the applications that he does teach the students, many of them are bolstering what I teach on top of what I use from him to reinforce that material, which is, it's really nice because they tend to remember Chuck more than they would me in the classroom. He's more fun.
There are 2 technology education labs in Wilmington Middle School, and we basically service all of the students in grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8, and give them an experience in technology education in the 3 years they're here at the middle school. It's an interactive tech lab that is full of 12 different modules that the students rotate through, and they cover a pretty broad breadth of technological studies and subjects. What happens is that with the science classes and what Chuck does in the science classes, and then what he allows and facilitates to happen with this tech fair, everything basically melds together, and it dovetails what's being done in the science class, and it gives them real application examples of what they not only do in the class, but what can be done outside, and also what electrical engineers do as part of their everyday job. So what it does is it gives kids basically a culmination of what they do in the present, and then a look towards what they may do in the future. So it really is a great experience for the students, and it's a great opportunity for them. I think it also is something that gives back to Chuck and also the people that come here from Analog, because I think it's a rewarding experience not only for the students but also for the people that come here from Analog. I think they get a great opportunity and a great experience. That's what I've heard anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for everyone. That's kind of the way I look at it, because I certainly enjoy it. I love being with the kids, and the engineers get a day away from their computers, away from their lab experiments, and come in and have fun with the kids. And of course, the kids enjoy it, and the teachers, I think, get entertained too. So I think it's pretty much a win-win for everybody.
I think that one thing that's also important to note is that is the investment that Analog has made in allowing Chuck to come out of his regular job and to participate 1 day a week in the science classes every year for the last 10 years here at Wilmington Middle School. And for the last 2 years, Chuck has actually been retired, and he still has volunteered his time even after he's retired for the students here at Wilmington Middle School. So I think that that's what a great school business partnership that is, and it's also a great opportunity for the students here and also the teachers. So Chuck, we really appreciate what you do for all of us here in the school, the students, the staff alike, and we really appreciate you helping us out here and putting the tech fair on. I know it's a tremendous amount of work every year, and you get a little crazy doing it, but I know you love it too. But thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you.
And let's get back to the students.
All right.
Here is one of those black squares, and if you get some nitric acid and stick it on the surface, right, it'll eat the plastic away, and sure enough, there's a microchip.
Oh,
See it?
I see it
And
definitely.
so, we're going to talk about how we make microchips at Analog Devices. And in particular, I'm going to talk about this little guy here.
Wow, that's the smallest microchip I've ever seen.
Yeah, so this is a plot of the microchip blown up. I actually taped the microchip to the plot. Can anybody see where the microchip is?
All over?
No, it's just a little dot.
Oh, right there.
You got it, right? So on that little microchip is everything that you can see on this poster, right? The scales here are microscopic. We have to work at large magnifications. This plot is 300,000 times bigger than the microchip itself. For real. But everything that's on this big plot, really, that microchip. An area like this here, and I blow it up on another magnified tiny little speck of area on this chip. And so you bring this up on your computer screen, the blue wires and the red wires all connecting these transistors together.
No, right the joints. You gotta be careful. You gotta be right there.
Trying to solder. You can heat both of them up and then touch the solder in to, we'll clean it up for the next time. This is a solder site. It's right through there. So this was a little wire that's attached to this all the way through. That's the wires from these things on the other side. So you can take that one and just read 2 or 3 times. It has a soldering iron in one hand.
Counter is for measuring the radiation. Measuring the radiation in your thyroid.
And by running electricity through the speaker, we change the magnetism of the speaker instead of doing it like in a textbook or something.
This is the trigger. Can you get that? This is the trigger for the drill. If you just put your hands around and pull, it'll go. Okay? When you're trying to drill into the wood, hold it straight up and down and give a little bit of pressure with your opposite hand. Okay? So pull the trigger. Put your other hand up here, and you can push down. And it will help it go through. There you go.
There are 2 kinds of charges, positive and negative, and they attract. Positive and negative charges attract. Can you do that? See that plate lifting up? So what happened is that we put a negative charge on the lower plate, and we brought the aluminum plate on top of it, close by.
And the way it works is every time it hits the wall, the foam bounces back, rotates, and keeps on going. And hopefully after a certain period, statistically, it should cover the whole area.
Why don't you see if you can replace that load, which is the fan, and put in a light bulb. See what happens there. Nice job.
Whoa. Okay, here you go. Hold this and hold that. Now, with the end of that wire, you see the real teeny tiny wires here?
Yes, I do.
Touch the end of that wire to the end of one of the tiny wires.
Right now?
Make a juicy spark.
Okay.
Oh!
Juice!
Oh!
Do it again. Come on, do it again.
All right. Oh, that's amazing.
Goes to the wire. The wire is hot enough to take the
Move
solder.
it through the terminal.
Okay, now can you see how there's a little lump of solder forming right there where the wire goes?
Take some solder in your left hand
Hard metal.
and heat up the terminal and feed the solder in. Keep it flowing.
Same stuff. So,
Think it's connected yet?
Starts out cylindrical because it got spit out of the nozzle, but then surface tension wants to pull it back into the shape of a sphere, but inertia causes it to overshoot, so it flattens out and then surface tension wants to pull it back again, but then inertia causes it to overshoot. So you can see it oscillating as it goes down.
Like a jellyfish.
Like a jellyfish, yeah. And so that's the interesting thing. None of that is visible under a regular light. So here's a regular light bulb. It's just on all the time. And so everything's just a big blur. But if you view it under a strobe light, you can see what's really going on. So this is what that stream really looks like. It really is a bunch of individual drops. It's very hard to tell that under regular light.
You really can't see that. But if I block the light, then the sound stops. Incandescent light bulb would wear out if you flashed it really fast.
G'day, I'm Mick Muick. I'm a design engineer at Analog Devices, and I'm here at Wilmington Middle School at the Tech Fair, and I'm trying to teach the young kids here that technology can be really scary complicated if you look at it as a whole, but we all work on little pieces of it, and that in doing math and science, that will all turn into something that they can work on in a way cool job and do small pieces of really high technology, and it all gets put together and turns into wonderful equipment like iPods or computers and laptops and so forth.
Hi, I'm Brennan OFlaherty, and I am from the Wilmington Middle School, and I'm in 7th grade. We just experienced the technology fair from the engineers from Analog Devices. I thought this was very good for all the students to gather and have fun of learning different systems. This is a great fair because it relates to everyday life, and maybe some people want to be like these engineers someday, and I think it's really important to know all this stuff. Science rocks! Woo!
Welcome back to Where's Wilmington. If you just joined us, you just saw footage that WCTV was glad to get from the Science and Tech Fair that was recently held in Wilmington. We're talking with Chuck Kitchen, Theresa Piazza, and Mick Muick about the Science and Tech Fair. So tell me a little bit about teaching itself and how you structure your teaching and what kind of a job you think it is to be a teacher.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, because I think a lot of people think, oh, when I retire, I'll do something easy like teaching. And if anybody who's actually done it, realizes how much work it is. I mean, you have to get up at the crack of dawn. You have to go in and teach class after class after class after class, and then you have a 30-minute lunch hour. And then you go and teach a bunch more classes, and I'm telling you, teach even 5 or 6 classes, which is probably normal or less than normal. You're exhausted. Right. But I also have to say, it's very rewarding. I always feel that the kids give me back. They give back to me more than I give to them. I just love, I love doing it. I enjoy the kids tremendously, and they're very, very nice kids. I think people, you know, sometimes people will complain about teenagers, so they'll think, oh, teaching, you know, maybe that would be hard to basically run a classroom and organize a classroom or something like that. But I find them to be really, really nice kids.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you've had that experience, but you both make it look easy. From looking at that footage, you just seem so excited about it, and I think the kids feed off of your excitement. I also think their behavior is a reflection on you as well. Kids respect people who treat them respectfully, so a lot of that has to do with you.
Well, thank you.
Right? Theresa, what do you think about what he said about teaching?
He tells us that all the time. It's
nice to have someone kind of be in the trenches with you and really understand what you're going through.
Exactly. So, somebody sort of, from the other side and coming in and, walking in our shoes and, seeing how tough it is, day to day and, but.
The grind.
Exactly. But, I work in middle school and I love that age level, and you're either made for it or you're not. And I love going in with them every day because they do give back, so much more. So it certainly makes it worth it.
And Mick, how about you? How do you feel about the whole experience? I mean, the thing you did with the microchips was totally fascinating to me when I looked at that. How do you feel when you get involved with the kids? And you have children yourself that are in school, right?
Right. Like I said, I think it's just great to be able to inspire them. I also give them a little prize at the end, a 12-inch silicon wafer, which they're pretty rare and they're pretty hard to get, and it's a real trophy for them. I'm not clear the kids get, you know, what sort of a rarity that thing is, and we try and give that to the most possibly, you know, to be inspired boy and girl out there, and push them off into the sciences in a big way.
Well, I'd like to say what is a rarity is that the two of you gentlemen get involved and give so much of your time. So I'd like to applaud that and thank you really for what you're doing, and for everybody in Analog that gets involved, and of course you as a teacher too, working in the trenches, making our country and our students better. We do appreciate that. What would you say to anyone that wants to get involved with the program, the Science and Tech Fair, Chuck?
Oh, well, I would simply say that, for one thing, it's fun. Kids understand how to have fun. They know that fun is important, and that's another thing I think you pick up from teaching, certainly in grade 7.
Right.
So I think certainly from the engineers at Analog, it gives them a chance to get away from their computers, to get out of the lab for a day, to get out of the building for a day, come into the middle school and have fun.
Right.
And it is also, too, fun to share your excitement, the fun that you get out of doing things, out of certainly electronics and the things that we do. It's fun to share that. It's fun to show that to someone who maybe has never seen it before.
I'll bet you it reinvents your interest in the topic in different ways, too, because you never know what they're going to come up with. How would you like to speak to that question?
Well, I think there's a lot of kids who think of the tech stuff as a stereotype that's, you know, not fun, you know, geek factor and so forth.
Right.
And I think to have a lot of the kids see, you know, a bunch of guys get together and be really passionate about the stuff that they do, and show that, you know, hey, I made a chip that went into an iPod or what have you. And you know, they can just connect with the whole concept of it not being a stigma like you see in a lot of places.
When you say engineer, that term is so broad to so many young kids. I think as you get older, you learn there's different kinds of engineers. But when you're a young kid, to kind of have someone in the field who gets right in there with you and shows you what's possible, it's really a beautiful thing. So we thank you all for coming to be with us today. We appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and we hope to see more from you in the next couple of years. Who knows, maybe we'll make a Chuck Kitchen Science Wing one of these days, right? And we'll have a nice plaque for you, too. All right, just want to thank you for watching Where's Wilmington with us today. Do try to get involved in the community. It's really important to everyone, and I think you can see from these folks today how it's really good for you as well. So we want to thank you for watching Where's Wilmington today, and I want to remind you the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV.